Okay, excuse the little stopping there. Just having some difficulty with the video here. So in the Shona ceremony, the importance that you know that the mbira, the thumb piano as an instrument, is not often played alone. It is usually played in groups of twos, threes or fours with interlocking melodies, very similar to how we had in gamelan music. And together with the melodies that are interlocking, there's also singing, yodeling, chanting, maybe some dancing, and usually one person in the group is assigned the thing of going into a trance and getting the messages from an ancestor. Whether you believe this is possible or not is besides the point. The fact is that these practices are still going on and is a very common thing throughout Africa. In many other parts they use drumming and things like that to go into a trance state. So that's pretty much the most important thing for the section on the Shona tribe in Zimbabwe. So let's move up into the group of people in Mali. The predominant instrument, of course, is the kora that you're going to be watching some more videos on. For those of you that were not in the class for the drum circle, I will display for you the main drum that is used actually throughout Africa, but very much predominantly in North Africa where it came from. There are many other drums, the dundun, the ashika, but the main drum you need to know about is the djembe. It's really shaped like a large flower pot, and it is very similar to the Middle Eastern drum that we're going to be covering. And I'll get to that when we get there, but don't mix them up. The Middle Eastern drum is much smaller and is held underneath the armpit. It's very small, it's usually only about this big, whereas the djembe is much bigger, and I have one here to show you. This is a non-traditional djembe. It's made by a company called Remo. So the traditional djembe usually has a big strap around here, and the leather is tied down with a rope that comes down to the center. So when you draw a picture for me of the djembe, I would like the traditional version shown with the ropes on the thing. So of course it's hollow inside. And I'm going to hold it in the non-traditional way just because of my sitting position, but usually it's held between the legs. And the most important thing that we covered in the drum circle was the three specific sounds that it makes. A big open sound in the middle, a more closed sound, and then a tacking sound right in the end. An idea of the type of sounds that it can make. There are a variety of very complex polyrhythms that are used. We didn't cover that too much in the drum circle. We had a lot of fun playing. I hope everyone had fun. But there are some very traditional rhythms that are pretty complex, and as most of you are not music majors, I did not go into too much detail about that. But things you do need to know is importantly the three particular sounds that you hit it with your hands. The djembe is a hand drum, it's not played with sticks. And you get these different rhythms are played by using those different tones. There is also a language that is used. For each hand there's a different syllable, and this is very similar to Indian tabla. Remember we spoke about the tabla? And in Indian music I said that we learn to recite the rhythms, and then we learn to play them. That each syllable is a movement with the hands, and these rhythms can be very complex. In African drumming, it's very common to have more like a drum troupe, where you have 3 or 4 drummers playing very different instruments, and each drum has got a specific role within the framework of the rhythm being played. There may be somebody on a dundun. Dundun is a big barrel-shaped drum, and that is hit with a stick. The ashikas also are more similar to the djembe, which are hit with the hands. The other thing that I mentioned during the drum circle is what holds the whole drum circle together. When you have 40 drummers drumming very, very different rhythms within the framework of the main rhythm, you have to have something that's holding the whole thing together. And for that, we often use a more high-pitched instrument, something like a cowbell, which can be heard very easily over the hum of all the different drums. So that's important for you to know that there is a cowbell is often the timekeeper, like the metronome. This is often played by the more senior drummers who can hold down a very strong heartbeat and hold the whole thing together. You don't want somebody holding the whole thing together who doesn't have a good sense of rhythm. So they often have an older, more experienced drummer holding the whole thing together. Another instrument that is used in North Africa as an accompaniment to the kora, to the harp. So let me put this djembe aside. Oh, before I go to the balafon, let me show you or display to you another drum, which I showed you a video of the other day. This is called the talking drum. It's shaped like an hourglass. The reason why it's called a talking drum is because you can play and change the pitch of it. And African languages are tonal languages. So one word, depending on how it is said, can mean a variety of things. Because just by changing the tone of the word, it changes the context of the word or the meaning of the word. So poetry is a very big thing in Africa. So they also have these competitions where poets come and they recite their poetry, and often a talking drummer will come and sort of follow the pitches and sounds of the poem through the drumming. So I'm just going to display to you how the pitch changes happen. It's also, the talking drum has a particular stick, an interesting stick that is used. Unlike a regular drumstick, it is rounded in shape, has a little flat head there. So I want you to take special notice of this. I will be asking you to draw a diagram of a talking drum. So it's by pushing against the straps, because it's the hour-shaped glass there, the hour shape there, I can change the pitch. So then they also use the second hand. Okay, so that's the talking drum. So talking drum, djembe, ashika, the dundun, which you haven't seen one of, but you can go online and take a look at what a dundun is. There are a variety of other instruments. So I'm going to be showing you an instrument called the balafon. It's very much like a modern day xylophone, which is often has metal keys. It's used in Western classical music. I don't know if you've seen the beautiful xylophone we have at York College. Maybe when we get back, I'll pull it out to show you all. The unique thing about this version of the balafon is that it has little gourds underneath it. And if you remember, I spoke about the unique sound of African instruments. For example, a Western instrument like the piano or a classical guitar has a very clean, pure sound. Our drums, trap set, usually very clean, pure sound. What we want in African music is is a type of tone with more resonance. So often the drums, like the djembe, they would put a metal piece on top there with key rings on it that would create a type of buzzing sound. And they use this also with the mbira, with the thumb piano. When they play it, they often put it in a gourd and put bottle tops around the gourd, so when they're playing, you get this buzzing effect. You have the same effect with this balafon, which, let me pull it out here. So take notice, it has gourds underneath it. The way that the gourds make the sound is they have a little hole in the gourd, and then they put some type of plastic, or often they used part of a goat stomach on there, which was a very thin little thing. Now predominantly they use plastic. So when you hit the key, the air from your hitting goes into the gourd and comes out, and it makes a buzzing sound. This one doesn't work too well, but I will find one or two keys to give you that example. So as you notice, I haven't got the traditional sticks. I've got some drumsticks here with some duct tape on. Okay, that's a good buzz there. So don't know if you can hear that. So I'll play a little tune for you. That was actually a little melody from an Indian raga that I just figured out to play on this thing. So it has a unique shape, this one. There are some very large ones with all the notes in. This is more of a pentatonic, interesting scale that they've used for this one. But they have some very large flat ones with tons more keys on it, and it's a pretty complex instrument. But anyway, it originated in North Africa. It's called the balafon, and I will be sending you also a link, a YouTube link for you to watch some professional balafon players. Okay, let me just get with my notes here. Okay, just a quick jump back to the Shona tribe. Remember, we did mention that most of Africa, of course, was colonized either by the French or Belgium or the British. So what happened with colonization in places like Zimbabwe was, during colonization, a lot of the traditional music was often suppressed, as Western music was more imposed on everyone, because they created schools and they taught only Western music. They didn't give any respect to any of the African traditions. So very often instruments like the thumb piano or the mbira went, sort of disappeared, and only people in villages and then some of the elder people kept these traditions up. So at the end of colonization, there was a revival of the traditional music. And that has happened also in places like Mali, which today the kora players and the griot, the traditional musicians, are getting a lot more respect, and they're reviving their traditions. So it's important for you to know that. I will be asking a question related to what happened during colonization and what's happening with traditional music today. So related to the sound of the instrument that I've just spoken about, using those little key ring things with a metal thing on top of the drum, or using that buzzing effect on the gourds of the balafon, this is called tuning.